Because again, it's very difficult to engage the community and convince them of the reality of what the research states. So, very interestingly enough though, it took about a generation for that school to realize that those children don't lose their English. In fact, they had higher English scores, and they had the best scores of the exiting 5th grade classes. And lo and behold, that data helped the school go from one dual language class strand to 3 classes. So again, it just kind of takes time, and it speaks to the kind of the generation. And as we do that, when you have a school within a school, or a program within a school, which is the norm, where you have maybe a dual language program and a structured English immersion program, I think it's incredibly important for us as teachers, administrators, and parents to understand that we're all really looking for the same goals. And it's important that when we have our conversations, that we try not to separate ourselves and make ourselves an elite program, as much as to have meetings talking about language development. Not Japanese language development, not Spanish language development, not English language development, as much as just language development. Because all of us here are, in a sense, learning the language and developing this language to a higher level. And so when we're doing our professional developments at El Marino, obviously things that we can't do it specific to Japanese, or we can't do it specific to Spanish, even though they're very, very different languages, we often will just speak to language development, and then we try and transfer and apply those kinds of ideas to whatever language development is going on. And I'm hopeful that we can kind of continue those conversations throughout in district conversations, because I truly believe that maybe perhaps some of the ways that we can impact or help students who are termed LTELs or long-term English learners could be better served by adopting immersion methodologies that are proven to be effective in target language classrooms. Thank you.
As you formulate your questions, I want to try to share with you some themes that I heard among our panelists. And the predominant theme was this idea of bridging divides and forming collaborations. Tara mentioned about bridging the divide between research and practice, or practice and research as one of those bridges that have happened after 40 years of immersion education. But there are several others that I heard here that I think are really important for us to acknowledge, reflect upon, and then continue to grow our programs. One of them was the bridge in Culver City between languages, between the Japanese immersion program and the Spanish program. That collaboration among the staff, the administration, really facilitates implementing the best possible programs here in this community, which is something really to recognize and acknowledge. The third one is between program types. So we have experienced, as a result of 227, the elimination of traditional language minority bilingual education program, and really moving forward to programs where language minority students and language majority students can really engage fully in this goal of biliteracy and bilingualism through dual language immersion, which is a trend and an aspiration for the future as well. And in this idea that Tara shared about multilingualism, is where bilingual educators in the beginning days didn't really want to talk to immersion educators because of the perceptions that this was a very class-based, elitist model that was really going to alienate and disenfranchise language minority students. And I really see that divide has also been bridged. The other bridge is about culture. You know, we still have a lot of work to do with culture. I think, Andrew, you alluded to it in terms of sort of the discourse, the cultural discourse patterns that are prevalent in one language don't necessarily get fully played out in an immersion context, and really need to work on that as well. And our panelists aptly talked about that is a focus that we need to talk about. And the achievement divide, we've really celebrating the idea that the achievement divide has been diminished as evidenced by the fact that English learners are achieving better. They're having better academic achievement results. They're having better results in linguistically in language and in state testing, and moving forward and acknowledging that through our achievement results. And finally, in terms of divide between communities, this is something that we really need to talk about in our further work in the next 40 years of immersion education, is how do we bring communities together? We've done that by placing the students in this classroom environment, in the schooling environment, which really breaks down some barriers between communities, but we need to celebrate that more with the parents who've been part of all of this. So I want to ask you, before I turn to you to questions, to thank again our panelists for their wonderful insights and we do have a few minutes for questions or reactions or reflections from you in the audience. Two questions, reflections, thoughts. Yes.
I have a question I could ask Horiba Sensei or Tracy about this, but this is something we really deal with all the time. I wanted to speak directly to Tara's issues about the elitism and the imbalance in the community, that other people feel the immersion schools are somehow, built a city on a hill, and that they're taking away from other schools. So I would be interested to hear any solutions that you've worked with or opportunities that you've had to address that issue.
Did you all hear that question?
Yes.
I can speak to some of the places, I think, where we've gotten off track with immersion. I think one of the key pieces is that, especially foreign language immersion, we have to go back and understand that it's coming out of the taproot of foreign language education in our country. What that means is that foreign language education, really classically it used to be about Latin and Greek and learning classical languages, and then it was learning French and German and Spanish, but more so even French and German, and it was reserved for those who had already mastered English. It was seen as the extra, it was more of the elitist. Originally you needed those languages to get a doctorate. So when we started with the foreign language immersion program, it came out of that tradition. And things evolve very slowly over generations. And I think that's one of the issues that has sort of plagued our one-way foreign language immersion programs. In addition to that, we have really needed to wrestle with undoing some of the perceptions that Andrew spoke to, which is that bilingualism is a negative thing, right? Bilingualism means that you're distributing language resources against two or more languages, right? So that's another another historical piece I think we've dragged along. And not understanding well enough that if you have language and learning issues, that does not mean that you can't be successful in a language immersion program. I think our knee-jerk reaction has been, and my experience of this is from lots of anecdotal reports, that while the official policy is the programs are open to one and all, in fact, a lot of preschool screening is going on, and psychologists are saying, gee, I noticed that your child's English is a little underdeveloped, and I would really not encourage, given that circumstance, for your child to go into an immersion program. So I think a lot of concerns. I've had parents say, my child's already been diagnosed with ADHD or ADD. Do you think it's an appropriate match for them to try an immersion program? These questions have made our immersion programs look a certain way. I can speak to all sorts of other factors in addition to that.